Welcome back to Lesson 5. Today we're going to be learning all about editing. Up until now you've learned all about pre-production, so writing your script, making your storyboard and planning all your shots. You've then moved on to production, so learning camera, sound recording, some effects and also lighting techniques. Today we're going to be looking at how you put all that together in the edit. So to begin with, I think a big issue for a lot of people is knowing which editing program to use. There's so much software available, free software, expensive software, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. I personally think that they all do the same thing and you should be able to use anything that's available. There's an old saying that a good worker never blames their tools, and I think that applies to editing as well. We personally use Final Cut Pro in our office, and I know a lot of other people that use Adobe Premiere, but I think the software that comes free with your computer, for example iMovie with an iMac, or Windows Video Editor with a PC, do everything just as well. There are also lots of free online versions of software such as WeVideo, but again, these change and update every year. So I don't think it's necessary to teach you a specific program today, but more teach you the basics of editing. So today we're going to look at all the different stages, from assembling your movie on the timeline, to sound mixing, adding music and effects, and also a little bit of a colour grade at the end. And I think the best way to learn is always by example. So we're actually going to do a full live edit session today of our film unboxing, and you can see how it goes all the way from raw footage to the final film. First of all, you'll see my desktop is nice and clean, so I think organisation is a good friend to have if you're editing. So this is probably the tidiest you'll ever see the desktop on here. So I've got a folder here called Unboxing Movie, and I've organised my footage in here. And this is essentially all the different clips taken straight off the phone.
Camera's rolling.
It's sometimes good just to have a little scan through some of the footage. So really, I think you should be able to just use whatever you have to hand. So I'll briefly talk you through the setup of iMovie, but I think the important thing to take away from this is the editing process, how I get from raw footage to finished film, not so much how the program works. So as I said, they all do similar things. So the first thing you'll see up here is your viewer, and this is your timeline. So that's where you build your film, and this is where all your footage lies. So the first thing we'll do is import all our video. So it was on my nice and clean desktop, and you can essentially click on import all. Again, I believe the options should be really similar, whichever computer you're on. So as you can see, it's now imported all our clips. So they all appear as a thumbnail, so just one image, but when you click on the clip, you can scan quite quickly through them, and they show up on the player here, or you can click in one.
Camera's rolling.
Action.
What is this?
So the first thing you're going to want to do is assemble your movie. So this is when your storyboard comes in very handy. If we check our storyboards, we know that the first clip is a wide shot. So as you can see, we've done a few different takes. So what you want to do, so we've got 5 takes there, and you really just want to watch them all and then decide what the best one is.
Okay, camera's rolling. Shot 1.
And action.
Hello? Where am I? What is this? This isn't funny. Hello?
So yeah, that seems pretty good. They all seem pretty similar. I mean, the one thing you can see is that his head's cut off in the framing, but we're going to be switching to some close-ups quite quickly anyway, so all we really need is that wide shot to establish him in the room. We don't even actually see him get up, so let's take it from the first one. So there's two ways of doing this. You can either change where the yellow box is, and you can bring this a little bit down, and then it just puts that selection of the clip in the timeline.
Hello?
I'm just going to delete that. The other option is to actually take the whole clip down, and then you can move it down here. Most of the time you're sort of doing a bit of both. So let's go back. I think I was going to take this clip. So what I'm going to do is bring the whole clip down, and so we want to take it according to the storyboard. The next shot is a close-up of his eyes opening. So essentially what we want is just a little clip before his eyes actually open, so about there. And as you can see, there's a waveform here, and that's just the sound, and you can turn it up and down with this. And we're not going to worry about sound just yet. We're going to assemble all the video and then go back and do our sound. So that is our wide shot. So the next shot is a close-up of the eyes opening. So the great thing about these thumbnails is you can just quickly skim through and see it straight away. I'm just going to use the skimming button. Because the audio is not too important, I don't really need to be listening to it. So I think we'll take this shot and we want to see his eyes opening. And it's simply a case of dragging it down, dropping it, and putting them together just like that. So let's see how that looks as a sequence.
And action.
So it's definitely too long. It takes too long to open his eyes, so I would actually tighten it up a bit. So the shot starts as soon as he opens his eyes, and this one's probably too long as well. So let's see what that looks like tightened up.
And action.
That's a bit better, isn't it? But it sort of looks off to the side there, so let's bring it back to there. I'm also just going to get rid of that sound in the meantime, so it's a bit distracting. I think we would probably want to cut back to the wide here to see him actually getting up. So what we can do, if you can see that little orange marker, that shows the clips that we've used so far. So we can go back to this one just after he's opened his eyes and bring that down. So I think what would be good is if we actually cut this as he's getting up. And then during this one here maybe, that looks good. He sort of appears in frame, so as you can see in the storyboard it says rise into shot. And there's a little shortcut here as well I'm using, so when I want the clip to start, I press I on the keyboard for in, and then O on the keyboard for out. And you don't have to play it back in normal speed each time, you can just sort of skim through. I think the best thing is if we get quite a rough assembly in, and then chop it down from there. So that's looking pretty good so far. And then the next shot is don't open the box. So this is quite nice, so we see him walking into shot. I'm just going to bring the full clip down. think it's quite nice to see that full frame before he actually enters it. So you can see he's still on the ground here. What we could have done is gone back to this angle and show him getting up.
What is this?
But I think I'm a bit bored of that shot because I've already seen it twice. And sometimes you don't need to show every single action. So for example, if you were showing someone leaving the house, you don't need a close-up of them moving, of their hand going on the door handle, of them opening the door handle, of the door opening, of them leaving the door, of them walking down the stairs. You could just cut from inside, a quick shot of the handle and then out, so you don't always have to show every part of the process. So I think we can just jump straight from here to this. So let's see how that looks.
Where am I?
That's quite cool with the shadow. And then it looks like we've got a good sort of short reverse shot. So this is looking at the screen, but then we can actually turn around and see the actor. Just turn the audio up on there.
What is this?
It's looking pretty good so far. And then this is when he turns around to see the box. So let's just find that clip. And there's so many good different shots and angles here. They've done a really good job filming it. So always remember that the editor, you can never have too much footage for the editor. So this is when we finally introduce the character of the box. So I think one thing the storyboard makes clear is that as the film progresses, the shots of the box get closer and closer to heighten the tension. So I think the first one we'll do, judging by the different shots of our box, is start on the widest one. So I think we can all agree it looks a bit silly at the moment, but as soon as we add some music and sound effects, I think you're going to be quite amazed at the effect it has. And then we've got the tracking shot. So I think this take is actually really good. So it's such a nice shot. I think I'd be keen to use quite a lot of it.
Cameras rolling. Action camera.
So just to have a bit of flow, I would start it as it's moving.
Action.
And so we probably don't need the whole shot here.
Hello?
That looks pretty good. And then we're going to cut to a close-up of the locked door. You can see just got a sort of standard shot, and this is more of the sort of Dutch angle. So this might be better a bit later on. So just like we're introducing bigger and smaller shots of the box, I think we'll do the same with the door handle. So starting just quite a basic wide.
Hello, anybody out there?
That's pretty good. And then we're cutting back to mid shot where we see him sort of banging on the door. So let's just locate that.
This isn't funny! Hello?
And then we want to cut back to the box. This time probably a bit closer. and
Anybody out there?
then I think even another really quick shot of the box. This is a pretty cool one. And the next shot we've got, I think it could be good to show a close-up of the lot. I really like this angle. So it's just starting to get quite frantic, isn't it? And then let's chuck in this angle here, which is really a really good angle just for adding a sort of a sense of sort of almost paranoia, claustrophobia from looking at that angle. So we had a really interesting shot in the storyboard, and we'll see how that looks. It was the idea to have it actually shot from the other side of the door. Yep, and here it is here. And I think what's going to be cool about this is if we actually turn the sound off. So we're going to cut back to the box again, and this time, according to the storyboard, things are getting a bit more abstract. So seeing this sort of just slight side angle for a split second. And this is when we start to see him sort of push on the door. So maybe not quite opening the door yet.
This isn't funny, hello? Hello? Hello?
And then one more close-up shot, trying to undo the lock. Because I know one shot we had in mind was a close-up of his eye. So you can see it was quite a difficult shot to film. There's quite a lot of issues with sort of focus. But this one looks really good. So let's pop that in there. And I think maybe an abstract shot of the box. And then the final shot in this sort of sequence is a mid shot of the door opening. Seems like a good one as any. So the next shot on the storyboard here was a big wide of sort of this writing, wasn't it? But I think it could be more effective. Yeah, that's what I thought. So they've shot individual parts. Yeah, so what we could do is just get, hopefully just the first part. Perfect. And then we want to find open. Probably just before it pans. Let's see how that looks. So now I think it's a good time to go back to our wide shot. So we can see in the previous shot, he started walking and looked. So let's try and get that continuity. So this is obviously a super long shot. So probably up until he gets to the box. And then I believe we got shots, yeah, with the shadow. So this is just a really fun, interesting shot. So again, we'll try and match that up. So he walks over to the box. We see a close-up of a hand opening the box. Perfect. Go on here. So what I'm going to do is bring all the shots down for this sequence, and then it's going to be a case of resizing them all so they fit together smoothly. Okay, so this is one of the reverse point of view shots. So this should hopefully be quite interesting. Yeah, it looks really cool. So, pop that down. And then we have a side view of looking in the box. And finally, we end on the box. So we've not used this one yet. So let's pop that in. And it might be good just to have two shots of the box. So that's basically us in terms of the storyboard and the shots. So what would be good now is just to tighten up this little sequence here. So let's just play it back and see how it looks. So it doesn't look quite right, does it? So I think one of the main things is the sound. So I'm going to remove the sound on that. The sound here is quite good because you hear the sound of the box opening. Also, this doesn't really cut together, so you can see here the box is almost open, but then he opens the box again. So we want to find a nice midpoint, sort of mid-action. It's usually a good time to cut shots together. So we'll drag that to there. So basically we want the previous shot to end in that position. So it's almost more like there, isn't it? Still not quite right, that needs to be a bit shorter. Yeah, that feels more like it. And this was super long, wasn't it? So I think that's us there in terms of the assembly. So that is editing really. It's because of the storyboard that makes it so simple and straightforward. So it's really just assembling everything together. And the skill comes in using different angles and getting the timing well. Because can you imagine if the whole film, or if even you remember this very first angle.
Shot one.
And action.
So everything that's happening in this shot happens in the sequence with the different close-ups. But if you just had this one shot, it's so boring, isn't it? It's so long.
Hello.
You also don't really know what to focus on. Is it the door? Is it the writing? Is it the person? Is it what they're saying? And that's what the good thing. And that's why using lots of different shots is a really good idea. So the next thing we're going to do is go through and mix the audio. So luckily there's not lots of dialogue in this, and that was obviously intentional as it can be quite hard to capture really good audio sometimes on location. So as you can see from the clips, you can move the volume up and down using this little line, and I believe it's the same in most editing programs that you get nowadays. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just disable the sound on any clips where there isn't any talking. So this one and this one, for example, you can already tell where the talking is based on the little waveform that appears.
Hello.
So again, disable that
What is
one.
this?
Because you can leave the sound on, but sometimes the room tone is quite a bit messy, so you don't really want it in there. Like this one, for example. And there's some sort of creaking, squeaking.
Hello?
Here we do need the audio.
Hello?
Just going to take that down, and that one down. So that noise is quite good, so we'll keep that in. So for me, that's kind of the audio mixed almost. Another little tip that I like to do is just put crossfades at the end of each clip. So because there's a cut, there's an audio cut as well, so it can sound a bit harsh. So what I like to do is just put a crossfade at each one. And what that means is just there's more of a gradual start to it. So I'm going to add crossfades to each one. And it's especially useful when there's a lot of noise, because you can even see from the little clip there, that's quite a hard edge.
This isn't funny! This isn't funny!
So you can see the difference
This
there.
isn't funny! This isn't funny!
Okay, and then another thing is you want the volume to be sort of the same level throughout. So you can see here, the waveform's quite
Anybody
high.
out there?
And that little yellow bit lets you know that it's actually peaking. That means it's just almost too loud. If it goes red, that means it's too loud. But as you can see, these are quite quiet. So what I'm going to do is actually turn the volume up on those. So that's it for the audio mix. So what else could we do to add some production value? So the most obvious thing for me is to add some music. Using music is a little bit tricky. So obviously it'd be great to include some of your favourite songs by pop singers and famous artists. But unfortunately they're all covered by rights and royalty protection. So you can't use those tracks unless you pay a lot of money to use them. Luckily, there are some sites out there where composers allow their music to be used for free. Another thing is that if you use pop music or music with singing in it, it can be quite distracting and not really fit with the film. So what you really want to do is use something that's called a score. So this is really just purely instrumental, and this can be really good to help add emotion. What music really does in a film is that it gives a cue to the viewer of how they should feel. If you hear sad music, you tend to feel a bit sad. If you hear happy music, it tends to make you feel happy. So often this allows a film director to really emphasize exactly what they're trying to make the audience feel. Horror films specifically make very good use of music to really add tension and frighten the viewer and make them feel quite unsettled. So luckily there are some sites out there that let you use music for free. The main one, which is actually quite good, is YouTube actually has a free music directory. So you can see here the YouTube music library. And personally I think this is great, and you can use as much of this as you want in whichever you like. So you'll see that it's organised by different categories. So there's the track title, the artist, which doesn't really help in terms of looking for something scary. What is good is this mood section. So you can see there are different options here: inspirational, dark, bright, dramatic, funky. And already I know that we want something dark. So as soon as I click on that, it narrows it right down to things that are just dark. And all you have to do is give it a play and we can see what it sounds like. Okay, it's kind of okay, maybe a bit too much drums. So these are almost sounding a bit too much like pop songs rather than scores. So what I might do is actually narrow the genre down to cinematic. And already that feels much more like it. So what's really good about this is that you can play or preview the music on the web browser, and while you're previewing it, you can go back to the editing software and play that at the same time, and it can give you an idea of what it's going to look like. So let's try that. So you can already see that instantly adds drama and tension, and I think that song's actually quite effective. It would also be interesting to see how it would play out during this bit. So I'm just going to keep playing it actually. It's pretty good actually. So what I'm going to do is download that. And so just to keep it tidy, I'm going to make a new folder called music. But just to emphasize how important music is, let's just clear those filters. We'll stick with cinematic, but let's go for something that's maybe calm.
Hello? Hello? Where am I? What is this?
Okay, so you get the point there. So that changes it completely. It almost feels like the actor's waking up on a lovely Christmas morning to his present. There's something quite, it almost makes it quite funny in a way. So it just completely changes the tone. So we could also try happy. So it just doesn't really make sense. So it doesn't make me feel happy or scared. It doesn't really do anything. So it's just the wrong choice completely. So it's super important to try and find the right music. So think about your genre. Whether it's horror, you want something scary. If it's a romance, you want something happy. If it's a sci-fi, you want some music that's a bit more mysterious. So we've got our track. So what we're going to do now is import the music. And so the first track I really liked, that had the sort of thumping bass line. So as you can see, there's a gap in the waveform where that particular bit of music kicks in. You can see that here. So I think it'd be quite nice if that timed up with something, probably when he actually opens his eyes fully. So what you can do is shorten this a bit and drag that back so that this lines up with that clip. And again, just adding that crossfade at the start like before. Let's see how that turns out. So there's a nice syncing of music and editing there. So it's always good to try and time the edit to the music sometimes. I think the music's going to be really good as it's going to basically build the tension. But what I think will happen is when he opens the door, it's almost like that's when the tension stops, isn't it? So what I would do is actually make the music stop as soon as the door opens. So now we've got our music, I think the next thing we obviously need are some sound effects. So we can see, for example, that when he looks at the box, what's scary about it?
Funny! Hello?
It's just not that scary, is it? So what we can do is add some sound effects. So again, they aren't really included in the program, or if they are, it might differ from program to program. So again, like anything, you can just try Google for free ones. So I'm going to type in free horror sound effects pack. And I'll just click on this one. Okay, that sounds good. And it gives you a little sample here. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? So I'm going to download that. What we're trying to do, I guess, is give some life to the box, so almost making it feel human in a way, or like a monstrous. So I'm going to import them into my project. And basically now it's just a case of going through, finding out where you just add some effects and playing it through. So these have all got yellow and red on them, so I think they're going to be quite loud, but let's just have a play. Terrifying. Pretty creepy. So let's think about when we need our first sound effect. So it's going to be sort of first time he turns around to look at the box.
What is this?
So in there, we want a sound, don't we? It's like he's reacting to it. So we could put something quite subtle to begin with. Maybe like one of these noises. So again, all you do is drop it down underneath. Maybe bring the volume down a little bit. And then it's just a case of retiming it. So maybe comes in a bit late. Or maybe comes in a bit late. And then it'd be good to have like a real, and then we could build on that by adding some more effects. That's horrible. Oh yeah, that's good. So that's nice. So maybe we could go from breathing to something a little bit more alien sounding almost. And then I think it's nice to try and reuse some of those sound effects. So we could do this one. So what I'm going to do is copy this. So you can go to Edit, Copy, or there's also a good shortcut which is Command C. And again, you can just line it up and Command V or Edit, Paste. I mean, it's kind of fun. There's not really a wrong way of doing this. Just play around with sound effects and whatever sounds good. Yes, that's already pretty scary, isn't it? It still feels like it needs something though, like almost like, not music, but just a bed of some sort of tension. So I think there were some longer clips here in the sound effects. I think that's quite good. So maybe that could start from about here. And so what I would tend to do with this is maybe fade it in gradually. Again, you can use this to sort of help it more of a gradual curve rather than just start suddenly. So the idea is he sort of disappears here, isn't it? So maybe we can actually make this shorter so that the music ends when he disappears. So we maybe want the tension to start again about here, but we need that initial noise, don't we? So I'm going to copy that, and it's maybe he needs a noise to make him turn round. It's there, I think. So I think we need just one more of these breaths. We'll copy that one. I'll put that there. So it's almost, it feels like the box is clawing back. So kind of good, but then we probably need some more effects here, don't we, just to liven it up a bit. So let's put that in here. And then really, at this point when he disappears, we need a sound effect that's very harsh and cuts. So as you can see by looking at the waveforms here, they kind of dip down. So what we want to find is something that dips up, like this. Or maybe this. So you'll see what's good about that is if we time it up perfectly to him disappearing with that endpoint. So you can see the endpoint there, and this is when he disappears. If we sync that up exactly, it's going to be really effective, I think. Just like at the very start, when we had that sync point between the eyes opening and the music starting, we're going to do the same at the end. I'm just going to fade that music out quicker as well. And we'll maybe add in just one more sound effect. Maybe just copy this. And again, it'll fade out at the end, but there's just a little bit of an echo just so it's not complete silence. Okay, we're nearly there. So the other thing that I was quite keen to do, basically the idea here is that he's almost been sucked into the box. So we want to get some audio and we can manipulate it to make it sound like he's inside. So what I would like to do is go back and find him saying, hello, where am I?
Where am I?
So I'm going to copy that and paste it at the end. So what you can do in most editing programs is this, which is detach audio. And that allows you to take that audio and put it under anywhere you like. So let's see what that sounds like. I'm going to make this a bit longer actually as well.
Hello?
Get rid of that. So it's a bit long at the moment, so I'm just going to separate that as two different audio files. So now one is hello and one is where am I, and we should be able to move them.
Hello? Where am I?
So there's a bit of a jump there, so I'm just going to make those cross over each other.
Hello? Where am I?
So it doesn't quite sound like he's inside the box yet. So what I'm going to do is add an audio effect. This is iMovie specifically, but most editing programs have some sort of filter or effect. So this one's really good. So from looking at these,
Hello?
if you're inside a box,
Hello? 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 Hello?
so I think that one's actually quite good. It's called telephone, but I think it works in this context. So let's have a listen.
Hello? Where am I? Hello?
So it's quite effective, isn't it? It kind of makes it feel like he's inside. He's sort of shrunken down to a tiny little person and inside the box. So I'm going to add it to that clip as well. So I'm quite happy with that actually.
Hello? Where am I?
So we've got our sound mix, we've got our sound effects added. The next thing I'm going to do is apply a filter. So it's just like on Instagram or anything like that. So what's great about iMovie, and again, this just about every editing program you get now has free filters that come with it. So let's have a look. And it's great is that with this one you can hover over it and it gives you a preview. So that's it with none. You could do black and white. So much like sound effects, there's no right or wrong answer, just whatever you think looks cool. I think I quite like that one, blast. So what you need to do is then go and apply it to each one. It was blast, wasn't it? There is a quick way of doing this. So there's often a toggle on most editing programs that let you zoom in and out of the timeline. So I'm going to zoom out, and then basically you can just click and drag and select all your clips and then add a filter to all of them at the same time. So you can already see it's added a lot of mood, hasn't it? To be honest, I'm really happy with that edit. So I think the only thing left to do is watch it back.
Hello? Hello?
as this.
Hello? Hello? Anybody out there? This isn't funny! Hello? Anybody out there?